Hi, and thanks for joining us. It's Ruth Pringle here from Blue Noun Language School, and I'm happy to be talking to Sam Davies today. She's English with Sam. Sam works online. She's an online English teacher, and the purpose of this live is to find out about how Sam helps people, basically, who she helps and how she helps them, and pick up some tips if you're looking for an English language class or course online. So hi Sam, I do feel like I know you because this is the first time we're talking, but we have been in each other's worlds a wee bit in different memberships, and I'm aware of your work and how you help people. But for those who aren't, who do you work with? Who do you teach?
My business, which at the moment is a little bit confusing. I'm English classes with Sam, but I'm slowly moving over to Midway Language Cafe. So if you see that name, that's also me. And I help people who have recently moved to the UK or who want to move to the UK very soon, with kind of the aspects, the language aspects that you need in order to do that. So at the moment, I've got sort of CV writing and interviews course. I've also done sort of a speaking / survival / really practical bits and bobs course. And then my one-to-ones. And I hope to expand that a little bit more as well in the future. But that's kind of what I've got at the moment.
It's fascinating. I mean, my first question is really how you sort of fell into this niche or found this niche, because I haven't heard of anybody else targeting this group of people, and it makes so much sense.
Yeah, I mean, Ruth, I'm sure you can know where I'm coming from here, but niching as an English teacher, I found so hard. Like it took me forever to choose a group because you want to do everything, don't you, at all times. And I guess it was just a lot of reflection, a lot of thinking about it, and I realized that is the group of people that I was helping more than others throughout my career as a teacher and before I was a teacher as well. So I worked in recruitment. I worked for a multilingual recruitment agency in London before I got into teaching. And because I was dealing with multilingual jobs, the vast majority of people that were coming for jobs were not, English native speakers. So without really realizing it, that is kind of the people that I've been talking to the most. And I don't really remember the point at which I was very clear that was, this is it now. But it's kind of happened very, very gradually over time.
Yeah, I mean, just projecting onto you, I think possibly the difficulty is that just to make people aware of your service, that this is what you do. Like, people who are looking to come to the UK for jobs and work aren't necessarily searching those terms for an English teacher. They're going, oh, I need to learn English to come over for a work. But is that what you find the difficulty is in your marketing and reaching people?
I guess so. There's not really I don't really have any, I guess, keywords just yet. I'm still kind of building that area, but I guess English for the UK, English, there isn't really, you're right, there's not a particular term for that.
Yeah, and just like an awareness that actually there is an amazing English teacher who can help you with exactly what you need. It's like just this knowledge, this knowledge. That's what I spend my life communicating, really. Do you work with all nationalities or particular nationalities?
I've worked with all sorts of nationalities, I would say. Nationality wise, that's kind of anything goes, really. The people that I tend to find, so for my one-to-one classes especially, I would say my strength, my real love is like slightly lower levels. So yeah, beginners to intermediate is kind of my thing.
Mm.
So these are the people that they might come to the UK because a spouse has got a job in the UK, or because circumstances have meant they've had to move to the UK rather than moving over for a job that they've already got. I think that's the kind of people I'm kind of helping more with, the one-to-ones who tend to be a bit more of a lower level. And then the interviews thing is obviously kind of the other side, because that is a bit more higher level.
That's about kind of perfect English. You go one side, you've got experimental learning to love English, and the other side, you've just kind of got really controlled and perfect English. But like many people, you have different strings to your bows. You have like lots of talents within the profession, and you're able to help different people. The community thing I find really interesting, because that's a chance for people to not just have a bit of language skills when they arrive, but know the culture, maybe know some people in the town, or at least have a network of people who are even arriving in different towns, but around the same time, that they can stay in touch with. I mean, that sounds really valuable for people.
Yeah, and I think this is what teachers realize, and students come to realize, is that you don't just need to learn English. Like, it's huge, isn't it? It's all encompassing. Like, you can't learn English
I'm still learning English.
Exactly. So, why is it you want to learn English? You want to do it to do different things. And if you can find a service or a teacher that is going to help you with those things, specific things that you need to be able to do with English, that is going to be much more beneficial than, there's no point me teaching, doing a lesson about, I don't know. I watched your live that you did last week. He was was it Kevin? That you did? And he's obviously very technical. He's got all this amazing technical knowledge, which would be fantastic for somebody who's an engineer, or but there's no point teaching that language to someone who works in hospitality, for example. There's just
Absolutely. Yeah, and as well, for hospitality, there's no point. There's limited point doing lots of written exercises and things, because they need the fluency. They need to be able to speak. If you've got a limit of like kind of 10 hours of teaching or 15 hours of teaching, which we normally do with a course, then there's ways to support the learning through writing, but like you're targeting completely different skills. People need to understand what's been asked of them, and the variants of that, and have polite, like, again, it's polite language. This is something that most people I work with really struggle with, the difference between like formal and informal English, and having learnt a very formal English, and then all of a sudden they're surrounded by completely like a different style of English. It's informal. And yes, there's so much there. So it sounds like you enjoy the challenge of it, though. You sound really excited about doing it.
Yeah. As in, you mean the challenge of the different levels, or?
Yeah, well, just it's lovely to. I can imagine you in the classroom. I can imagine you leading people through, and I not every English language teacher manages to be as excited and interested in the language, I think. And that's something, if I was learning a language, I would want from a teacher. But again, not everybody needs, really. It's different incentives for different people, I guess. But it sounds like your classes are fun. Am I right?
Yes, I would hope so. Yes, that's certainly something I strive, like I try to do. I think you have to have fun. It's about building relationships with the people in the room with you. I think that's a really, really important part of it. And that's why I'm changing, as you said, my business name to Midway Language Community, sort of Midway Language Cafe, and building that community within that. I think that's really, really important. especially as well, because the one of the main struggles that I see for people moving to the UK is, okay, they've got the practical, they need it for the practical stuff, for jobs, for living, but actually they can get really isolated because they're not being able to go out and meet people, because it's hard when there's that language barrier there.
Terrifying when you have a language, and depends where you are, but it's so debilitating. Like, if you can't get on a bus and you can't if you can't move around your town, or I'm in a rural area, so it's even worse if you get on the wrong bus. It's like, the implications are really huge, and it really just helping people with that confidence. That's why at Blue Noun, we don't, I don't target working with beginners. I do enjoy working with beginners, but I haven't worked out how to do it online personally. But we always have a class available if there's people who are new in the community and need that help, because it's the difference between, feeling they belong somewhere, or feeling that they can't leave their house because they're scared of their environment. It's such a necessity. Absolutely. I imagine, if I was to kind of project onto you with your class, do you do any myth busting and have to tell people, actually, that's not true about the UK?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. I think one of the biggest things that I'm quite passionate about communicating to people is, being in the country does not automatically mean your English will improve. I think sometimes I have to admit, I was the same. Before I went to live in France for a while, I was like, well, of course my French is going to improve. I'll be there, and it'll just happen naturally. And no, of course, you still have to make that effort to push yourself out and to communicate with people in order to get that benefit. And I've met people who have been here for a number of years, but they get into that routine of work. Their job might not necessarily use English very much, or even at all. Wake up, go to work, come home, go to bed. Perhaps, in their household, they don't speak English as well. And actually, it's really easy not to. It's really easy, to kind of get a bit stuck, a little bit stuck in a rut with it. So the sooner you can kind of push yourself, I think the longer you leave it, the harder it can get. So the quicker you can push yourself out there and try and make those connections and improve your language, the better, I think.
Because the more English you have, the easier it gets as well. I did exactly the same thing in France and Belgium, and in the beginning, when you don't understand the language, it's a wash of noise. You've got no chance of learning from the language around you, because there's no words that are making sense within that. But the more you can hear and identify, the easier that then gets to kind of build on what you know and work with it. So absolutely, definitely. So I guess you work with people who need that encouragement and people who don't need that encouragement. They're dying to get started with it, really. There's just been a life change that means...
Yeah, I think I work with all sorts of different people, but I do tend to connect very well with people who are a bit shy, don't feel as happy, because to be honest, I really, really relate. I know, because I'm the same. It is hard to push yourself out there sometimes. So if your personality isn't naturally really outgoing and happy to just go out and have all these new experiences, that can be hard. So I try very hard through my courses to kind of just show people what is achievable, what they can do. And we start off in our small little group where you're free to try things. It's okay. It doesn't matter if you're making mistakes. It doesn't matter if people don't understand you the first time. And then that's kind of like the first little step, and then hopefully over time the idea is that you can grow and you can get a bit more out of our little bubble.
Lovely, yes. When I mean, there's different people want different things, obviously, from English language teachers, and what you described is just absolutely something that a particular type of person would like. That encouragement, that nurturing, that safety. It's really a valuable thing to be offering students. And again, there's other people who would want more independence and don't need that, but that's the beauty of working online. There's as soon as you can articulate what you're offering and find the clients that is the perfect match for, that's when magic happens. Mm-hmm. And just the way you're describing it, so many people, not the people I ordinarily work with online, but I'm also concurrently doing some work with a group of Ukrainians in town, and you're just describing half of them perfectly. Mm-hmm. Some of them are just having a ball and enjoying the language and really finding it joyous to be practicing this language that is kind of book learned, but they've not really had active experience of it. And the other half, certainly the lower level students are uncomfortable and need a lot of the sort of psychological help with it, not just language, but the nurturing and the goal setting and the incentives that can turn it into, from something that's, particularly with them, something that's forced onto them, to something that can be a pleasure that they can take fun with, like they can see results they can feel proud of achieving for themselves. It would be, I mean, I wish I could borrow you for a couple of classes. Would really benefit from it extremely, yes. And do you tell me a little bit about success stories then with your work? What?
Well, actually, I received an email literally over the week from someone who did my first round of the interviews course, she's just got a new job, so that's really, really great. So yeah, so that's kind of the more, I guess, tangible results is, you know, from the interview stuff. That's what I love, I think, most about that stuff, is that it's a really tangible, like, I did it, I got a job, like, oh yeah. So yeah, there's been that. And then I guess for the lower level students that I work with, it's less tangible stuff. But I mean, I've got one client that I've been working with for over a year now, and she always, I think she used the word ashamed, even, you know, embarrassed at the beginning to talk, and now she said she's translating bits of English in some of her meetings when they have English, you know, when they have to look at English stuff. And yeah, she's much happier, feeling much more confident. So
I mean, it's life-changing. It's like the word, she's happier, she's living a more fulfilling, better life. She's probably got more employment possibilities through it as well. It's a huge difference that you make. It's wonderful. Yeah. So what's the future plans then? You said that you're busy changing over. Yeah. Is it too soon to talk about that, or can you let us know?
I can tell you what I know. Yeah, I mean, my vision is, you know, it's always good to continue with the one-to-ones. If people look, especially for the lower levels who need a longer term time to be nurtured and get to that level. But then I've got these other courses available. So very soon, my CV writing course and my interviews course is going to be available as a digital course. Mm-hmm. Not quite there yet, but watch this space, hopefully very soon. Cool. Yeah, and then other than that, that's kind of the two really solid things at the moment. But I've got ideas for a pronunciation course, English for making friends course. I'd love to go back to the practical sort of survival English course that I did again as well. But in what order and in what time frame?
I always have more ideas than I have time in the day to actually do them. So you sound a little bit like me in that respect. Yeah, no, it sounds great. I love the way that you're able to help people, and then obviously the digital download stuff, that makes it more accessible to many people. There's one of the ways that we can help people is to obviously one-to-one classes are extremely beneficial, but not always affordable to everyone. Whereas a digital download course, you can help so many more people with that. So it's a real motivator that people can access it, at least as a starting point, and then come and find you for more.
Yeah, and the other main motivation for me for making those a digital course was as I realised it doesn't matter how many times I say, think ahead. When do you want to interview? Maybe this round is going to be the round for you, if you're looking to get it in 6 months, 1 year. But of course, until that person starts applying, goes, oh, I've got an interview. Now I need help. This minute, I now need help.
It's human nature. We have the same, like, as you know, I work with artists, and so we have like 2 services, and one's like last minute interview practice, and one's like, you might get an interview this year, so let's work on what you need for your interview in a sedate fashion for 2 months. Which one sells more of?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was kind of the motivation, because at least then when you get people panic and go, oh, I need help right this second, the course is there. They can start it and do it at any time they want. So
beautiful. Yeah, because that's not even depending on you to be available. So that's really, that sounds very exciting. So keep us posted with that, obviously, in the group. One of the questions that I asked English teachers is if there's anything that any red flags or anything that you think students should be aware of about online English teaching. So basically, if people are looking online for an English language teacher, I think, and this is the reason why my service exists, it's hard to find your right match. It's hard to find the personality that you work well with, the course content. And then there's like some things that are just missold, really, or false expectations. So is there anything that you have to kind of you find yourself correcting students on, or again and again, or disappointing people with?
I think one of the things I would always be suspicious of is anyone who says you can be fluent in 3 months. I'm putting that time frame on it. You know?
I just saw one the other day that said that. It's like, my goodness.
The truth is, for some people, if you've got the right attitude and the time and the dedication, then yes, I'm sure it is possible. But
starting level.
That's not, I wouldn't say that's probably to do with the teacher. It's to do with you. It's to do with how, the time, the energy, how intensive your lessons are. Even that, I'm not sure more intense is necessarily better either, actually, I would have to say. So I think that's one thing I would always be very critical of, is people promising timelines, timeframes. And I think the other thing is, native speakerism. I don't know if you've seen my LinkedIn recently, but I've kind of got a bit.
I mean, I'm glad you mentioned it. We touched on it last week a little bit, but a lot of English learners won't know what that is. They won't know that term. So what is native speakerism?
So native speakerism is the assumption or belief that because a teacher is a native speaker of the language, they will automatically be better at teaching it, of having access to that knowledge, than a, inverted commas, non-native speaker, which again is, you can't separate teachers into these 2 categories, can you? I mean, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, I certainly believe that you shouldn't, but I also think that many institutions still do, and that it's probably not always the fault of the student who thinks that, but that kind of propaganda that has filled our industry for like decades, really. I mean, it is, it's not anything. I mean, I would sort of correct or discuss it with an English learner, but I blame the system wholeheartedly for it. It just
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. I 100% agree with you. But yeah, it's I think as a learner, you need to be aware of what makes a good teacher and what doesn't. And you know, so being personality, I personally think is even higher than other things, like how do you actually get on with that person is going to be far more important, let alone qualifications, experience, all of that stuff, because
yeah, I think that click is essential. It's having that. You certainly don't have to be the same person. You can work well with opposites, but like that, finding that kind of matchmaking harmony. I kind of refer to it as my matchmaking service, and it's it's not romantic. It's just who's going to get the best out of you, and it's so different per person, really, isn't it? And like you'll probably attract people to your energy and to in the people who when you say something like you don't think it should be super intensive, like you're already like leaving some people behind and attracting other people, clearly.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, want that, I know, but it's don't, if you want a really intensive course, then don't come to me. Yeah, for sure.
there'll be somebody else out there for you. So it's perfect. It's just identifying all of these like attributes which the English learner needs to be aware of what would suit them, and also for the teachers, the English language teachers, to be kind of aware that their niche and their specialism is a lot more than, I don't know, English for accountants. It's like, it's how they teach, it's the warmth that they project, it's the personality that they share or don't share, and kind of making that visible, because this is what's so difficult about the online marketplace from the student's perspective, is kind of making those choices without experiences like this. Is obviously our online English teacher feature. We get to see how you work and how you click, and hopefully connect you to people who would love to learn with you and to work with you. How do people work with you, Sam? What do they need to do?
Well, any kind of communication is fine to start the ball rolling. So LinkedIn, I'm quite active on Instagram. Just send me a message, honestly. And my email is sam@midwaylanguagecafe.com. So if you want to send me a message, you can. Soon, my website will be up and running, and there'll be an easy place to contact me from my website as well. But for now, honestly, just reach out, even if you're not sure. There's no commitment from your conversation. Just message me is the easiest
So
thing.
you start with a chat to find out what their needs are and take it from there, really. Well, sounds perfect. That's absolutely great. All right. Okay. Well, thank you for joining. Thank you for being our online teacher feature.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be part of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to kind of find a path for people. Many people can go from that help, I need some English skills moment, to actually finding the person or the course that can best help them, because nobody wants to waste money and time. Like, it's also limited. We live in a world that everybody's time and money is limited. So the most direct approach, the best person to help you, I think, is really invaluable. And if just even think of the amount of time that people are spending trying to find their perfect English teacher online, if we can make that process easier and more transparent, it's a good thing. It's a win. So yeah, thank you for your support with it and being our featured teacher. Okay. If you're watching this on replay, thank you so much for doing so. And yeah, again, just send Sam a message or send her a link if you want to find out more about working with her. It sounds absolutely brilliant. Sam, I am also going to hit you for some ideas for my Ukrainian, so stay on the line, okay? But for now, thanks and bye.
Thank you.